Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear colleagues, allow me to start this session. I'm very happy to welcome you all today. This is already the third day of our conference, our anniversary APEC conference, and today is a very special session because in fact this is the first time we are holding their meetings where we're discussing multilateral and interinstitutional cooperation, which could enhance their solutions that we need to, for global problems. And that is why it is very important for us not only to rely on APEC or to rely solely on the G20, or rely solely, for example, on the African Union or BRICS in solving their issues that are relevant for the region or more globally. We need to cooperate and interact all together, and we need to, in fact, put all of our efforts together, including the institutional capacities that we have in different institutions, in order to offer better momentum, offer more opportunities to each of our youths in such a difficult, very challenging times. And this session, I would be co-moderating with our very good longtime friend. I should say that we have a cross opening of offices 2 years before, with our Indian partner, Amity University, and I'm very happy to see Professor Gurinder Singh here. And before we proceed to our extremely brilliant panel, I'd like to ask him, and besides one more thing to mention, Amity University, in addition to a number of programs that we've had together, a number of forthcoming joint initiatives and educational opportunities. Amity students were one of the most brilliant and most active during our last year BRICS International University internship, and we also aim to have many more opportunities together with them. And they also opened a BRICS office and their premises as well. So, Mr. Gurinder Singh, Rector of the Amity University, please say a few words before we proceed. Mr. Singh, could we ask you to say a few words before we proceed with the session? Okay, I know we have some technical problems, so I think my fellow co-moderator, very respected Mr. Singh, will say a few words later on, but now allow me to give the floor to our respected speaker, Mrs. Svetlana Lukash. Can you hear me? Are there problems with the sound?
Thank you very much, Victoria. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you really well.
Thank you so much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, and dear Victoria, thank you so much for inviting me and providing an opportunity to speak at the Eastern Economic Forum session. I would like to share some thoughts on the education agenda of G20 this year. So overall, the Italian presidency concentrated G20's efforts around a concept of 3 Ps: people, planet, prosperity, that builds on several cross-cutting areas, including health, climate, digitalization, and inclusivity. Actually, the pandemic has changed the way we live, work, operate, and the main message from the G20 this year is quite clear. Returning to pre-pandemic normal in any sphere is the last thing the world should do, and we need to use the disruption to build a more sustainable and inclusive world. G20 committed to put education at the center of the international political agenda as a strategic response to the current global health crisis and one of the cornerstones of sustainable growth, and agreed to take initiatives to ensure inclusive education for all. So what's on education agenda of G20 this year? First priority is combating educational poverty. Indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic caused educational cultural deprivation due to lockdowns and closures of schools and universities, and thus exacerbated risks of educational poverty and inequality. So G20 stressed the importance of mitigating factors that can impede learning proficiency. The shift to remote learning has made it clear that there is an urgent need to encourage a large-scale development of digital skills, both for students and teachers. Ensuring that all learners have access to blended learning is key to guarantee continuity and quality of education. Second priority is to address challenges of education systems and rethink the educational offer. G20 agreed that greater efforts are needed to make education systems more adaptable and resilient in the wake of the widespread adoption of new technologies and education models. In particular, we need to strengthen the digital and pedagogical skills of teachers and to rethink and update teaching approaches and methodologies, including content and tools. And indeed, also the learning assessments. So G20 committed to explore all innovative educational approaches and policy options, and to share methodologies and experiences regarding the benefits and disadvantages of blended education. Collaboration among G20 and APEC countries' higher education institutions plays a very important role here in transitioning to distance or blended education modalities. It will help to build on lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic in order to pursue long-term goals of more equitable, accessible, and resilient education systems. Third priority is ensuring transition from education to work, indeed a central issue for a sustainable and inclusive economic and social recovery, which is a main goal of G20. Transitions from education to work has a pivotal importance for young people's active participation in economic, social, and cultural life of our societies. It is also important in the context of transitioning to a lifelong learning concept. So, what matters? For education system, it will be crucial to increase the competences of human capital, strengthen connections between education and the labor market, provide diverse learning contexts of settings, and strengthen the services accompanying transitions during different stages of education and training. Employment measures, on the other hand, will need to focus on providing young people with quality employment opportunities, enhancing the coordination between education and employment services, and fostering quality job matching. The task of coordinating education, employment, and social policies can only be possible if policymakers engage in broader dialogue with all relevant stakeholders and social groups. That was the clearest message from the G20. So cooperation with and among academia and higher education institutions is put as an indispensable mechanism in this regard. So finally, let me just make a couple of remarks on maybe my personal vision of educational process. I believe the younger generations much more reflect on the global challenges of sustainable development, comparing, for instance, to my generation. And most young people today see their lives inseparable from climate challenge, for instance. So they seek solutions for green development and preserving our planet's biodiversity. And indeed, they are looking for the response to their concerns in the educational process. So I think educational programs should focus not only on developing professional skills, but also on how those skills will help to build a more inclusive and sustainable world. And here again, international cooperation of universities and their widest possible engagement with multilateral institutions like G20, APEC, and BRICS is of utmost importance in this regard. Thank you very much for your attention.
Dr. Panova, I think your voice is not coming. I think there's some technical issue. Sound is not able to reach to the participants.
Раз, два, три, четыре, пять. Вышел зайчик. Не дошел.
It's coming now.
It's come. Oh. Oh, wonderful. Thanks God we're back. Before I proceed with giving a few words to my respected co-moderator, I'd like to ask a question to our brilliant first speaker, our honorable guest, Mrs. Svetlana Lukash, who is Sherpa of the G20 for the Russian Federation. You've very well elaborated on what the G20 is doing. And I think G20 is probably even ahead of BRICS in terms of how well you have this developed format of cooperating with their other layers of society, be it business, be it civil society, be it women, be it youth, labor, etc. So the question is, where do you see and that actually brings better feedback both ways, from the government to civil society and from civil society and academia, etc., to governments. And I was wondering, since you're also a champion on environmental issues, what do you think could be the next steps for the G20 countries, probably taking the leadership for providing extra cooperation, not just between G20, APEC, African Union, Latin American Union, etc. Not only governments, but probably initiating some kind of outreach process that would be more global and that would involve governments, academia, but also business, because business in this regard, as you very rightly said, is extremely important, because we have the youth we're preparing there for the future, but also for the future workforce. And business is ahead of everybody else in terms of knowing what skills and what particular needs there are. And definitely, with what you started, we will never come back to what we've been to pre-pandemic situation. And thus we need to move forward to better future, using this challenge as an opportunity for bringing up not only our youth prepared for the future, but also offering all segments of our society with the lifelong learning to be fully participative and fully relevant for what's coming for us in the future.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Thank you for the question. Actually, G20 has always been, I would say, even obsessive of a broader dialogue with all social groups, with civil society, and right now, indeed, we have a number of formats that can provide a dialogue on, for instance, also including on educational issues. We have, as you rightly mentioned, the dialogue with civil society, with youth, with it is also, yes, we have Women 20, but actually these issues are mostly thoroughly considered within the formal, traditional, official track of G20. I mean, the working groups on education. We also have a working group on employment. G20 has established links between all these groups. Besides, they usually invite all social partners representing both the side of private sector and trade unions. They invite also representatives of civil society and youth at their meetings. And this cooperation, I would say, so on cooperation with different engagement groups on the issues of education and social sphere, I think is the strongest possible in G20. But I think that we should never stop in providing more opportunities for different views and engaging with different partners. What, for instance, was the key message from the Russian presidency in 2013 is this synergetic effort. So if we can ensure that G20 cooperates not only with, for instance, private sector or separately with trade unions or separately with youth, but bring them together and ensure that all these engagement groups elaborate together their recommendations, their dialogue options for the G20, and it should be not even a dialogue, but a group discussions. So this would bring added value. And as far as I understand, Indonesian presidency next year will more or less pursue the same approach. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and we're looking forward to such cooperation. As I said, you're probably one of the champions among the G20 Sherpas in terms of perceiving their recommendations from outreach segments, from civil society, from academia, and thus we would be hoping to share with you recommendations of this particular conference. It's APEC, but we think maybe you would find something relevant for the G20 with regards to education, because we're taking a comprehensive approach and managing and thinking about the barriers that we've come to at the moment and how to overcome those. So we would definitely send it to you and hope it will be of use. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And now, since we had those technical problems at the very beginning, I would like now to come back to my fellow co-moderator, and once again probably give a shorter version of what I've said at the beginning, saying that Mr. Gurinder Singh is our long-term and very valued partner. We have cross-opening of offices together with Amity University, which he heads. And we've had already launched a number of joint programs, even notwithstanding the pandemic. Amity students were among the brightest ones who participated last year in the BRICS internship that the FEFU offered for a semester. And acknowledging their India's chairship this year in BRICS, we asked Professor Singh, despite his busy schedule, to co-moderate with me this session. So, Professor Singh, if you could say just a few words, and then we'll pass over the word to other speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Panova, and what a privilege to be a part of this very prestigious event. And I remember participating in it 2 years back physically, and our Honorable Prime Minister was there along with the Chief Ministers. And we work very closely with the Far Eastern Federal University, and really feel privileged that Amity University, which is today amongst the top universities of Asia, and of course, from the last 9 years, getting continuously ranking of being the best private university of India with more than 200,000 students, 11 universities in India and 17 foreign campuses, have got an association with Far Eastern Federal University. We are offering number of programs together, even in COVID, when the whole world was worrying, we expanded and we did number of seminars, webinars together. And we look forward to strengthen our relationship for all times to come. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Her Excellency Mrs. Lukash. It was a pleasure listening to your great views, and I observed and written down some of the very valid points which you have spoken, and maybe that at the end, while we are concluding, we would like to give our view on the points which you have very aptly highlighted. Our fellow colleagues, Dr. Deborah Christina, Professor Marco, Professor Shen, our colleague from India, Dr. Ajit Shatru, Dr. Yen Wang, and our very able friend from Malaysia, with whom again we have developed a very good relationship, Professor Muhammad Ibrahim and Dr. Manoj Sharma, who is leading our Russian initiative. It's such a pleasure to see all of you. Pandemic has given a lot of challenges in front of us, but I think that one thing which we have seen in the past is that it has also brought the world together. Especially if you look at the academic world, we have seen that academically, all of us, we have come together. For example, we have seen that distance learning education, e-learning education, and the way we have been able to reach to the students and solve their issues remotely, it is praiseworthy. But as Excellency was pointing out, it has also created a lot of issues for us. For example, who is going to train our faculty members? How to have learning assessments? How to reach to the students? There are mental health issues which our students are facing. How to see that they are more participative? How to make the credit transfers between the universities very free? Because let's say if someone is sitting in Russia, or someone is sitting in China, or someone is in India or in any other country, if they are attending the sessions, then can we give them some credits? And if that is happening, then how we can enter into collaborative mode, how we can have free accessibility, how we can make our education system flexible. So I would say that though COVID is very challenging, I think that it has given a new theorem of education. And I can see that even when we will be able to solve the problems of COVID, the solutions which COVID has forwarded to us, that coming of academic people together, working together on research projects, taking the sessions together, and removing the physical distances, and also making education affordable and highly qualitative. These are the issues, I think, that on which we will like to work on. My congratulations to APEC, Group 20, G20, and BRICS nations for taking this initiative together. And once again, congratulations to Far Eastern Federal University, as always, to organize this wonderful conference. My best wishes to all of you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Professor Singh. Now allow me, without further ado, to move on to our next speaker. We also have here Dr. Deborah Cristina Soares Santos, who is the head of the International Affairs Office, Minister of Education of the Federative Republic of Brazil, member of the International Governing Board of BRICS Network University. I should mention before just passing the floor completely is that I'm quite proud to say that the idea of BRICS Network University, in fact, was born in circles of academia. So it's one of their effects of the outreach, and when the governments do listen to their people. And it was it came during the Russia's presidency as a Russian initiative, but elaborated jointly by all the 5 countries' academia. And it is really great to see that last year, during Russia's chairship, we saw finally the concept of the BRICS Network University adopted, and the roadmap, an action plan, for its further elaboration and further effective introduction. And thus, in addition to what Ms. Santos is going to tell us, I'd like to ask right away if it's possible to also offer your views in terms of how BRICS and APEC could be complementary in this regard, and what types of institutions or educational initiatives could be put forward. Ms. Santos, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, greetings from Brazil. Congratulations to the organizers and the Far Eastern Federal University to hold this 10th APEC Conference on Cooperation in Higher Education. And I extend my compliments to all the authorities and colleagues here present. Brazil aims to leverage education for a better recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and keep the access and the quality of the higher education. Understand that international cooperation is a primary key. In this discernment, the Ministry of Education from Brazil adopts some strategies to guarantee the progress and prioritize investments in essential areas to the future of education, considering the new scenario. In the science, partnerships and exchange experience are important allies to overcome the pandemic and historical challenges. And part of these themes, we have important discussions at the G20 and of course BRICS about the roadmap.
You've gone.
Her mic is off.
Could you hear me again?
Yeah. Now we can hear you back.
Thank you. So, at first, it is essential to mention that we have to redesign the national strategy for economy and social development. And it was regulated by a federal decree and aims to catalyze sustainable development in Brazil since 2020 until 2031. This strategic basis of governance for the federal plan systems establishes guidelines, goals, and sector indicators for the country's development efforts to guarantee economic stability and sustainability of the public debt trajectory. This national strategy aims to consolidate the long-term fiscal adjustment, improve the management of the public accounts, improve the planning and budget system, increase the predictable of execution and transparency of the public spending, consolidating inflation control. For education, the government intends to strengthen professional and technological education that in international context is known like vocational education and training. We have improved pedagogical use of technologies to expand the integration and capillarity of the employment, work, and income system. The emphasis is on the development of strategies and programs aimed at attracting young people in situations of social and educational risk to formal education, job qualification, development of strategies to reduce inequalities in the labor market, as well encouraging policies for the inclusion and qualification of works most affected by the technological changes. We focus on development of skills and adoption during the new program, the new production patterns. Regarding developing the country's digital economy, the guidelines focus on increasing access to the internet and digital technologies with quality of service and economy. More generally, the national strategy encourages the development of the digital economy by increased support for the diffusion of emerging technologies. It aims to provide the necessary conditions for the productive and the public sector to use open data to generate economic value, improve services, and create jobs through the data analysis, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, and other technological applications. In Brazil, we have more than 8 million students in higher education, and we offer more than 60 million new vacancies every year, and more than 10 million are in distance mode and private sector. And the country has only 17,000 international students in undergraduate courses from more than 170 different nationalities. These data show us that we have much space to improve our international partnerships and improve the academic relations. To ensure the digital inclusion of our students, we invested more than $33 million in the program Connected Education Innovation to support universal access to high-speed internet and force the pedagogical use of digital technologies. We will also create a collaborative virtual learning environment which brings together a series of courses, research projects, collaborative projects, and several other forms of distance educational support to teachers, those who will guarantee the continuity and the quality of the learning path through the hybrid teaching. So in summary, we follow actions have been developed by the ministry. We have the student program agreement in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that offers places at the federal universities for students from different countries, including APEC members countries, and we are open to new partnerships. We have artificial intelligence support to reduce higher education dropout, and was a project designed with University Federal from the state of Goiás here in Brazil that aims the use of artificial intelligence to establish new solutions to predict academic dropout and support pedagogical interventions in higher education. In this regard, the initiative seeks to carry out a pilot project at the national level with different institutions to evaluate the effectiveness of the actions of dropout context using communication and information technology. The project defines requirements, the analysis and evaluations of actions, consider the institution's structural organizations and geographic scenario. During the 2021, the main results of the project are expected include the development of the dropout predictive system, the development of actions to support the students and prevent dropout, and the development of the intelligence assessors that is a chatbot. The Connected Students project is also another project we have here, established through a partnership between the higher education and the vocational education and training, and the National Teaching and Research Network that has the objective to provide that have the objective to provide and monitor data packaged in personal mobile for students in the socioeconomic vulnerability of the federal institutions of higher education and federal institutes of education, science, and technology. We have also continuing teachers' educations, that is the AVAMEC platform, actions that take place online through platforms used to help teachers in their actions and also so they can extract additional resources for the remote activities. With regard to internationalization of higher education institutions, we should mention the institutional internationalization program carried out by the Coordination for the Improvement of Higher Education Personnel CAPES, which aims to implement strategic plans to encourage international research networks and improve the quality of academic production linked to graduate studies. In addition, the program promotes the mobility for professors and students with an emphasis of doctoral and postdoctoral students and professors from abroad and abroad to Brazil international cooperation actions conducted by university, include those from APEC countries. In the sense, we affirm our commitment to overcome this challenge, and especially in these areas of digital economy, teacher training, and research in new technologies, which justifies and extend the importance of our articulation with our, other countries, and in especially countries from APEC, G20, and BRICS, to whom I present our willingness for cooperation and for the exchange of experiences. Thank you so much.
Professor Singh, please proceed your moderation.
Wonderful presentation, Professor Deborah. And I think that you have touched on some very important points. But we have just one very small question, that what are your views that if the universities worldwide, they have to come together, do you think that they should be able to exchange the free credits? Because right now, most of the students' communities with whom we interact and who attend classes from the various professors worldwide, they feel a challenge that they are not able to get the awards of the credits. So what are your views that how world can come together and how we can award free credits to the students worldwide?
It is a very good question. Here in Brazil, we have the autonomy of the university, and they decide about the curriculum of the students and the classes. And from the federal government, we can do the match and try to align with the university and the countries in order to discuss the curriculum and the credits that we can design to be accepted. Here we have to consider too the differences, the linguistic differences. The most of universities here in Brazil have only classes in Portuguese. So the students that consider come here must to learn our language. And here from the from the federal government, we are trying to do an international policy to improve the universities, to offer classes in other languages and improve this approach with with the professors and the students, and to design new curriculums. So we can talk about this, and we can put the countries in contact with the universities and try to help them to design specific programs and new curriculums, or even new courses, of course. But at first, we think that this approach is the most important thing to do. Is try to put our universities in contact with the other universities in order to do new curriculums and accept new exchanges.
Thank you, Dr. Deborah Cristina. I think this was a wonderful presentation and great points you have given. Now I'm glad to invite Professor Marco Ricchieri, who's the General Secretary of the Institute for Political, Social and Economic Studies, Italy. Professor Ricchieri is enrolled in the special list of experts of the European Union Commission Development Goals Research Cordis Research Program, dealing with the issues of European social policy and industrial relations. He is a coordinator of the Ethics Committee of the European Agency of Investments. Professor Ricchieri will speak on the topic of international platform for a sustainable development and the common challenge to the education's world. Floor is yours, Professor Marco Ricchieri.
Thank you,
Mr. Moderator, my best greetings to all of you. It is a great honor to receive the invitation to this important event. Sorry, I had some difficulties at the beginning to connect, but now it's very, very good. I want to offer you the contribution of some reflection on my experience in both in the as university docent and with our Institute of Research in Rome, Italy. What I see in the scenario is that all the world is full of tension that we know well, but in the same time, they have a common platforms for the future development. So my attention is to work to implement this type of platforms. And the most important platform over which all the communities are committed is that of Agenda 2030 of the United Nations for a sustainable development. So this is the real platform in which all public and private bodies have to work on. And it is full of challenges in terms of new economic development. The passage from the quantity to quality of development, new governance system, and so on. We know well this different type of commitments. What I see when we go inside the different issues of this platform, I see that from one side, every community, every state is making at the moment great efforts in implementing it. And for instance, when we go to analyze the national plans, voluntary plans that every state send to United Nations authorities, we see that there is a really complex programs, plan, and platforms. But when I go to my university and talk with my students, I see what the President of United Nations said. We are still working in silos. Economists from one side, sociologists from other side, and so on. This is a lawyer from other side. And it is very, very rare to have what is continuously recommended an interdisciplinary approach. Interdisciplinary approach means this is my basic proposal that I feel the need to offer in different, continuously we are trying to talk about it. My proposal is that especially university and academic world organize some interdisciplinary working tables on sustainability, to make research, to make a comparison of different scientific approach, to call the students to open their mind and to become more qualified in a systemic approach to the new development needs. This is important. The organization of this table should be a very good contribution from academic world to the public and private players that at the moment are committed for the new development tracks. Take in mind, I was listening Deborah Suarez talking, that we have a panorama of traditional competence and skill and curricula and so. But there is completely another panorama emerging from the digital transition and green transition that is called the panorama of the new profession. How to define the new profession? How to organize cultural exchange, scientific exchange among different worlds on this particularly topic. And when I see the trends in labor market, I see that more and more, for instance, companies require young people with a mix of competence. They are called the transversal competence. So there is a new scenario in which we have to sit down around the table and discuss what are the new trends in terms of new profession linked to the green and digital transition. So these are the two main challenges in my view, on the table, that the organization of working tables on sustainability that brings together all different competence, and the possibility to discuss the new profession panorama, try to find a new definitions and build on these new definitions the possibility to enhance a real mobility among different academia, university, and so on. I repeat, sustainability is a general commitment, and we see this. It is the main topic, the main urgent thing in G20, in BRICS, in APEC, in other institutions. So let's work to enhance this common platform in acting as an academic forum and with your initiative in both the two directions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rekri. There's one question which one of the participants is asking, and we'd like to have your brief comments. And the question is that how do we upskill older generation and ensure that they are not left behind in the labor market?
Hey, this is a topic, but let's start from the beginning. In the last G20 that was chaired by Saudi Arabia, the OECD started to say, design a roadmap for digital development. Starting from this point, there is not a shared definition what is digital economy, digital sector. So let's start to have a shared definition about what is digital. Having in mind that digital is pervasive, is changing our way of living, working, and so on. And so we continuously talk about digital development, but in fact, we don't have a clear definition. And G20 started to work in this direction, to have a proper regulation, to have proper plans, and so on. Allora, there is, when we talk about digital development, now we are talking about e-learning for all the entire period of our life. our life is no more divided. I study, I work, I go in pension. No, now the learning is continuous. The upskilling is continuous. So we need to have a special program from older people, but having in mind that the digital revolution is changing the basis of all professions. Where our research put in evidence not that the effects of digital revolution are transversal for all the professions. So the upskilled people, the medium skilled, the low skilled. Now the change is transversal for everybody. So what the special intervention for all the people, it must be contained in a new policy. They go transversal for all the professions.
Thank you, Professor Rekri, for your very kind speech. Our next speaker is Professor Shen, who's the director of the Center for BRICS Studies from Fudan University. Professor Shen holds a Doctor of Law degree from Department of International Politics, School of International Relations and Public Affairs, Fudan University. Professor Shen, we welcome you and floor is yours.
Thank you, Moderator. Dear host, dear all colleagues, my great pleasure to participate in these sessions. The Center for BRICS Studies in Fudan University is one of the earliest research centers focusing on BRICS studies in China. And it's set up about 2013, about 80 years ago. And from then on, at the very beginning, calling for the cooperation in higher education is the main focus of this center. The initiation to build a league of universities inside the BRICS, the BRICS University League, is initiated by the center in year 2013 and become one of the major initiations from China's side to push forward possible higher education cooperations in the BRICS framework. Till now, the Center for BRICS Studies in Fudan University also served as the secretary of this League of Universities of the BRICS countries since I think about a year, the last year or the year before last. We are working to finish the procedures of institutionalizations of this league. And this league will try to push forward future cooperations among the cooperation among higher educations among the BRICS countries, the main universities. And the main idea is sharing these resources among the BRICS countries, push forward and encourage the cooperations, communications, exchanges of all necessary resources among the BRICS-based universities in the framework of the leagues, and we're providing the young generation a better opportunities to understanding the BRICS countries better, which we think is very concrete for the future integration and cooperation and development of the BRICS countries. And on the practical levels, since year 2013, yes, also the same year, the center founded with the sponsor from Shanghai Municipal Government, we launched a kind of multilateral program, a summer school for BRICS countries. We recruit students with the help of our strategic partners in different universities and think tanks in BRICS countries, and invite them to go to Shanghai, have a 1 month study here, and they will spend 50 times to hear the lectures and 50 times to go to the field work. This field work including the visit the headquarters of the New Development Bank in Shanghai, to visit the middle and small enterprise in Zhejiang and Jiangsu province, and the dialogue with local business peoples, news reporters, and international institutions, working staffs inside China, which will make them have better understanding of the development of the economy, political, cultural issues to different countries, and help to build a future networks of understanding, sharing necessary information and knowledges, and have their own friendships among their BRICS countries members. Since the last year, under the pressure of this and the threat of this pandemic, we moved this summer school to the online platforms. Now we have this online summer school. This year, this summer school already finished about 1 month ago. And we find that the digitalizations and take good advantage of all these online platforms is very important and necessary for future cooperations among higher educations among BRICS countries. And these platforms will help us to providing substantial tools to countering the threat and the troubles produced by the pandemic. And since this pandemic still will last for quite a long time, and this face-to-face dialogue will have some troubles, we concerning about the security issues to prevent the spread of this COVID-19, and these online digitalization platforms will be one of the most important tools for our future higher education cooperations. About these sessions, I have 3 points. The first, just lots of speakers already mentioned, this cross-border cooperations to push for the higher education is very important and critical for all those multilateral frameworks from the BRICS, the APEC, and the G20, because we all have more and more clear understanding that higher education is very important for our future generations and for our sustainable driving force of economy and the society and the world. And the second, taking good advantage of these digital technologies, providing us strategic opportunities. If possible, I think just this session mentioned, if we want to launch kind of those Convergence, maybe it's a proper time we're preparing to share or building some digital platform for higher education platforms, for higher education corporations among G20, APEC, and the BRICS. Such kind of platforms can be, at the very beginning, a kind of web pages, just to collect the necessary informations. And the second, we can transform it into certain special platforms or certain special digital regimes sponsored by these digital platforms. As to these web pages, our center, the Center for BRICS Studies, we also maintain our web pages as a website named the BRICS Information Sharing and Exchanging Platforms. These platforms will cooperate with our BRICS Business Council and mainly focus on sharing the investment and trading information at the very beginning. And now we add more education and other public issue information on these platforms. I think such kind of platforms, if we want to concretely push forward the convergence among our multilateral regimes, is very necessary and important. Third, of course, not least, we need to build a kind of, norms or regimes to encourage the exchange among the staffs and the professors. Those professors and the staffs very important in providing necessary strategic assistance to the strategic pillars for any possible higher education cooperations among our frameworks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shen Li. Now we'd like to invite Dr. Vinod Singh Ajat-Shatru, who is Director of BRICS Institute, New Delhi, India. Dr. Singh is PhD in International Political Economy from Peking University. Before founding BRICS Institute in New Delhi, Dr. Ajat-Shatru taught for several years at various universities in China, where he lectured about Indian culture and civilization. A renowned scholar, his research focuses on science and technology, cooperation amongst BRICS countries. Over to you, Dr. Vinod Singh Ajat-Shatru.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Am I audible? Yeah. Honorable Vice Chancellors, pleasure to see you after a long time, despite we are both in India. And thanks for this invitation to FEFU. I've been going through this online conference and it has been really great morale booster, positive for all the young people in India and in BRICS, in APEC. Let me just, as your university is the best university in India and in Asia in private university, we're also trying to create a network of private think tanks in India, which will really supplement or complement the government efforts, because ours is a very huge country. So we have public and private partnership, which is very important for development of BRICS, especially in the area of higher education, science and technology. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I would like to make a small request before I get into my detailed presentation, what I have prepared. I just wanted to submit to my Chinese colleague who is from Fudan University, Shanghai, that I am one of the first students from India who got his PhD from China. But now due to COVID, most of the students who followed into my footsteps, that it is worthwhile to get a degree from China, because China is the real story in terms of China's achievements in science and technology, in innovation, in manufacturing. But all of them are in depression now. I know more than 100 students in India personally, whom I'm trying to help out. I hope through this conference and through honorable, speakers here, we can make a proposal that all students, they should be somehow find out a channel where they can go and continue their studies. I mean, we all are suffering, we all are having hard times, but gradually things are getting back to normal, thank God. So I just request to my Chinese colleagues that students needs to go back. We should, as scholars, as a think tank, we should try our best to help them. We should try to find out a balanced way. So I mean, this is a request on behalf of my student fellow community. Most of them are research students. They have been working in labs and scientific labs and etc. Sir, coming back to this very, very interesting topic, which I think all of you are more qualified to speak. But as the young generation of India and studying in China and working with some collaborations in Russia, I have to share certain few observations which I have seen is that the cooperation between BRICS, G20, we also talk about G20 and APEC, looks very interesting, but some of the countries are not at the same level, especially when we talk about India. The kind of gap we have created, sir, in India, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We call it sometimes India and Bharat, right, sir? So there is a gap where we have the best institutes like IITs and also people with good family background, they can go to Amity University, they can go to some private universities. And also we have more than 300,000 students going to study in USA and Australia. We have almost 20,000 Indian students studying in China. We also had huge number of students studying in Russia, Australia. So the huge section of Indian population, Indian students, is left behind. The main reason is that the education is becoming very unaffordable. The cost of higher education is not a cup of tea for a normal middle-class family. So I request you are one of the congregation of universities in Asia Pacific. So sir, there should be some mechanism where we can divide these gaps. This is my very first submission for real cooperation. Because India in certain sectors with its space technology or IT or blockchain or even digital economy, India has certain advantages which we are sharing with the global economy. China has certain advantages, which is very, whether it's WeChat, payment system, fintech, or China's kind of mass entry into blockchain space, crypto space, which is at a mass level, or China's banks digital currency concept. These are very attractive for us. But on the ground, there is no convergence. So India have its own national innovation system, which is there for the last 70 years or more than that. And we had very good collaboration with our, American and European universities. But despite BRICS working hard for 10 years, the kind of joint labs or joint research projects at the university level has not yet kicked up. So through this forum, we would like to request that we can have some real, joint research programs in the healthcare sector, in energy sector, in climate change sector, not only at the government IITs, but also at the private universities. This was my number 2 submission. My number 3 submission is that BRICS University network is a huge network, no doubt, but it is sometimes active only once in a year. So to make this university network more useful and more effective, we should really find out some of the best universities in India, China, and Russia, just like Federal University of Far East in Russia, to really have some long-term PhD students. So right now, there's no direct PhD or research scholarship from the BRICS side. So this is a proposal from our side that, PhD is very important. Some people are debating that, PhDs are becoming irrelevant, spending so much of resources and time. But sir, honestly, when we talk scientifically, cross-country and the groups together, joint research are very, very important. So, and the 4th submission from my side is that it's also on the behalf of the young students that all the BRICS countries, they are not ready to share the credit system. So if a student is spending 1 year in Russia or 1 year in China, a part of his study, when he's coming back to his mother institution, his credits are not awarded. So some people think 1 year is wasted, they're not serious about going ahead. So I submit that we can have a proposal where there is a kind of institutionalization of cooperation where we can award the credit if a student spends 1 semester of 1 year in a different country. So sir, we have been talking for the last 2 days, and we have our national leaders giving speeches that there's a lot of synergy between our countries. But how to converge it, the way we have chosen the topic is very relevant. But the convergence in our innovation system is lacking. Whether it is Indians high-tech, science and tech, or Chinese mass technology. If we can adopt the Chinese technology at a mass level, it is good for our people. The Chinese cell phones are very affordable. One of my Chinese friends was saying that without Chinese phone, it's very hard to imagine digital India concept. And I almost agreed with him that China has made a huge contribution in terms of making affordable technology available to the masses. At the same time, the Chinese universities are not too costly. That's why many students from India, they would like to go and study in China. Not everybody can go to USA. So in this background, just education is not enough. If a student is getting a PhD from China or from Russia, he has a long-term association with that university. It's like his second home. So if he is working just like students go to America, half of them don't return, but half of them, they establish their own companies. So what I submit to my fellow scholars here, that, we should open up. Let an Indian start a company in China, Let an Indian start a company in Russia. And this other way also true. Let a Chinese person start a startup in India. So we have a lot of startups in India, a lot of startups in China. But we don't see like the American way of science and technology, where the immigrants, the foreigners are starting most of the companies in the Silicon Valley. So I'm not sure, sir, how much time I'm left, but my main submissions are like 4, this 4 and 5. I would like to submit that the national governments in China and Russia and in different countries should open the border for the students who are doing research and PhD. This is very crucial for our innovation system, for our cooperation on the ground. And the second submission is the credit system should be awarded if a student is spending 1 year or half a semester in your host institution. Number 3 is that we should allow the kind of facilities and support which we allow only to our national students, to foreign students also. So in that way, the startup will become a movement, will become a revolution, especially in the field of blockchain, digital economy, etc. And finally, I would like to request that this BRICS University network can really have some, huge and long-term collaboration where we can have long-term PhD students. So I think I'll be open to any comments and feedback from your side. And I'm sorry for late joining. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor. It is a pleasure to see you. And thank you, my colleagues from different countries. Hope next year we can meet somewhere physically. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
It's possible.
Dr. Raj. Thank you, Dr. Raj Chatru. And you are 100% right that the world is going to be very different. And one can see not only PhD scholars from BRIC countries and from APEC or from G20 going to each other and doing very thorough research, but also companies from these countries being created by the young minds. And one can see in the list of the Fortune 500 companies, about 9% of the new companies which are coming up, they are from the countries which were lesser known in the last 150 years. But I think that the world is changing, and so are the methods of our education. And we have got now Dr. Wang, who will be presenting the final report of the session. She is the coordinator of APEC-ED-Net, and she has concurrently been the senior specialist and director of international exchange at the National Institute of Educational Sciences of People's Republic of China. Her research focuses on education policy, education reform, studies of education. Over to you, Dr. Wang. We'd like to listen to you and the report which you have prepared. You're on mute. You have to unmute, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. We can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for your kind introduction. It's my great pleasure to attend today's meeting. Well, let me try if I can share my slides on my screen. Otherwise, I need to ask the staff to help me to share it. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Hello. Excellent.
Yes, yes.
Well, to start with, let me introduce the Education Network, abbreviated as ANET. It's a part of the Human Resource Development Working Group of APEC. And you can see on the official website of the APEC, there is also our webpage of the Education Network. And we have just released a news about this conference that we are present now. That's the 10th conference on cooperation in higher education in Asia Pacific region, and with a beautiful view of the campus of the Far Eastern Federal University. And on this webpage, as you can see, it shows our projects, meetings, initiatives, our partnerships, and our publications. So what is ANET? The way that ANET works is different from many other multilateral organizations. Education Network consists of focal points, mostly the officials in charge of the multilateral collaboration in the respective ministries of education in 21 APEC economies. So we meet regularly, either once or twice a year. This year we have already met 3 times, thanks to the facilities provided by host economy New Zealand. And then we discuss our cooperative projects, our joint initiatives, and things like the corporate documents and partnership with other multilateral organizations. Altogether, in the Education Network, there are more than 100 focal points from the corresponding official agencies of 21 APEC economies. So this is our mission or objective: to foster strong and vibrant learning systems across APEC member economies and strengthen the role of education in promoting social, individual, economic, and sustainable development through cross-border education cooperation. And in three aspects. First, developing global education cooperation with other relevant fora and institutions, multilateral organizations, through collaborative research and publication, exchange programs, and training and education. As you can see, actually, collaboration with such multilateral organizations as G20 and BRICS is indeed part of our mission, and then provide appropriate opportunities and conducive environments for K-12 children and students in higher education to engage in happy and effective learning. And then preparing today's youth with appropriate education training skills and participating in cross-border education to succeed in their local education system and compete in globalized world. Well, the education forum, education network was originally established as an education forum by the Ministers of Education of APEC members in 1992 in the Washington, D.C. of the United States. At that time, it's the theme of that meeting also aligns with the purpose of the established forum. At that time, it was called Education Forum, was towards education standards for 21st century. And then in the following years, 6 APEC education ministerial meetings have been held. As you can see, these are the themes of these education ministerial meetings. In 2000, Education for Learning Societies in 21st Century. Then 2004, Skills for the Coming Challenges. Excuse me. 2008, 21st Century Competences. And then 2012, Envisioning Together for the Future and Hope. Then 2016, Inclusive and Quality Education. If I can cite from the joint ministerial statements in this education ministers meetings, perhaps can give you some ideas about how we work. For example, we call it AEMM, abbreviation of these education ministers meetings held in 2000, says the diversity of the various member economies makes APEC an ideal platform for the exchange of information, ideas, and expertise as economists seek to overcome similar challenges. The advance of technology increases the opportunities and the modes available for such exchanges. And the ministers encourage greater exchange and interactions among economists at all levels, education planners, academics, teachers, and students, both physically and through virtual means facilitated by IT. We have been following such principles for education cooperation actually. And then in 2004, as the meeting held in Chile, it was emphasized building upon the successful work to date. Excuse me. We had defined the following 4 priorities for future network activities: teaching English and other foreign languages, stimulating learning in mathematics and science, using technology for teaching and learning, and governance in systemic reform in education. These later were expanded. For example, in 2008, in the meeting held in Peru, it says we aim towards ensuring that all our students receive quality education and will allow them to help bridge the economic chasm within our economies and throughout the Asia-Pacific region, and to improve the quality of life of our citizens and enable them to enjoy the benefits of globalization as well as the economic integration of the region. And then in Korea in 2012, it was in the ministerial statement, it was noted that we further recognize that changing nature of work requires workers to have higher levels of high-quality education and the competencies demanded by the nature of work, and the change in nature of education with integration of technology and introduction of innovative teaching and learning practices. And finally, the changing nature of education drives the need for increased cooperation and collaboration among education providers, businesses, researchers, and other stakeholders to better meet the needs of all students and learners, as well as the economy. And then in the most recent one, 2012, held in Peru, it was noted in the ministerial statement that APEC economies will work together to strengthen partnerships between the governments, educational and development institutions, and private sector to better facilitate the transition from education to work and lift participation in lifelong learning and encourage the development of global competences and entrepreneurship skills. This also includes developing the soft skills that will be crucial to meeting the changing nature of the economy and labor market demands. Well, as you see, similar to the G20, each year there is a host economy that will host all the APEC meetings where the representatives and delegates from the APEC economies discuss about the cooperation, including projects and initiatives. Well, this year the host economy is New Zealand, and this is their suggested priorities for education cooperation. Aligned with the overall theme of join, work, and grow together, the first is the well-being of students in a digital environment, including equity and inclusion. The second, student mobility and recognition of online learning and qualifications. And then skills development and training for the future. And then ensure that we take best advantage of the opportunities presented by a virtual APEC year. Actually, we did take the advantage of the virtual platform created by our host economy, New Zealand, and we have been able to hold so far 5 ANA meetings so far. And as you can see, similar to the APEC leaders meetings, senior official meetings, and ministers meetings, we always have our meetings held in the host economy as part of the senior official meetings. So this is from 2017 when our network meeting was held in Vietnam, and then in 2018 in Papua New Guinea, then in 2019 in in Chile, and then in Malaysia. So in Malaysia, it was actually already a combination of online and offline education. If you visit the website of the APEC Education Network, you will see the photos from other meetings, including the meetings from this year. So each year we meet, as I said, either once, twice, or a few more times, and the delegates represent their own economies, will be present at the meeting. Usually will discuss the corporate documents like terms of reference, work plan, and will also present our projects and our joint initiatives. And also there will be policy discussion. These are basically thematic workshop on education policy and priorities. So far, we have more than between 30 and 40 education projects led by the APEC members. So these are, should be 2015, 2019, our main initiatives like APEC Education Strategy, Action Plan, baseline report, newsletter, etc. So this is our landmark document, APEC Education Strategy and its Action Plan. This has mapped out our goals, objectives, and also priority areas for education cooperation in APEC region up to 2030. For example, for the strategy, this was endorsed by not only the AEMM, but also the Leaders' Declaration, and with 3 foci or pillars: competences, innovation, and employability. And then the action plan is basically a follow-up to the APEC education strategy. There are 9 targets and 30 indicators. So this serves as the reference for further education, cooperation, and policy developments. And then we have developed a baseline report on current education status in Asia-Pacific region. Perhaps so far, as far as I know, this is the only well, you can call it database or report that contains the information about the education systems in the 21 APEC economies. So there are 21 chapters respectively drafted by official agencies in 21 economies. Includes the overview, education system chart, education administration system, education governance system, key education policies and key indicators statistics. So since these were drafted and endorsed by the APEC Education Minister meeting in 2016, it has been updated for two or three times by the member economies. And then we also have produced
excellent points, but since the time is very short and we need to start with the next session, can we please request you to conclude in the next 1 minute, please?
Sure. Well, so and also we're trying to create we have developed a report on the education response to COVID-19, and also we are trying to develop knowledge platform on education policy and practices. So over years, we have been inviting the representatives from multilateral organizations such as UNESCO, UNICEF, World Bank, OECD, CMIL, and approved to our meetings and task force and steering committee, etc. So this is from this year's meeting. We have the speakers from UNESCO and also from OECD. So we are looking forward to the collaboration with G20 and BRICS. Personally, myself have led the editing of a book called Education Policy Reform Trends in G20 Members, published by Springer, and also organized the G20 Education Dialogue. Actually, the Miss Victoria Panova has been present at one of the G20 Education Dialogue. So I believe there will be many opportunities for collaboration. So this is my suggestion or just my vision for the collaboration in the future. I think we could start with participation in each other's meetings or activities as an observer or formal participant. Or mutual participation means we would be happy to invite the representatives from the BRICS and the G20 to participate in our initiatives, projects, and meetings, and we will also be willing to participate their activities, meetings, and projects. And we could jointly hold the meetings and jointly design projects and implement projects. And hopefully we could also launch the joint initiatives, because there is the two policies in APEC that could facilitate our cooperation. The first is we have a cross-fora principle that encourage the fora or sub-fora of APEC to collaborate with other multilateral organizations like G20 and BRICS. So the second is we also have the rule or policy of non-member participation that specify the protocols for our participation in these initiatives, projects, or meetings of other multilateral organizations, and also their participation in our initiatives, projects, and meetings. So this is just my suggestions and about the collaboration between these three multilateral organizations. Given our shared goals of inclusive and quality education for all, and also to facilitate recovery in the post-COVID-19 era, I believe there will be great potentiality of our collaboration, and I look forward to continue to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang, for that wonderful presentation. Since the time was very short, we had to request you to keep it a bit precise. But over to my co-host and co-chair, Dr. Victoria Panova, to now conclude the session.
Thank you so much, Professor Singh, for wonderful co-moderating. It was a real pleasure to do so together with you. It was really great to hear everybody's brilliant insights. I think today at this session we managed to get yet another set of interesting ideas and recommendations that we could suggest and put forward to our governmental authorities for their consideration and implementation. This is extremely valuable, and I do hope it is great indeed, and a lot of you talked about digitalization in education and the need to use new technologies not only for distant learning but also to modernize their methods of teaching, to offer new opportunities for youths, but also for people of any age to perceive the information, to elaborate on soft skills, and to be able to be part of the globalized world, irrespective of their actual geographic position. This is indeed important, but over the time of the pandemic, while we're really grateful to the level of digital technologies development, we are happy that the fourth industrial revolution came in time for them to be here for us, to serve the humanity. At the same time, I think we learned over the past year and a half that it is impossible to fully substitute human interaction with digital technologies. It is wonderful to see you all on the screen, but of course I would enjoy it much more to be able to have you next by our side here, to be able to have a cup of champagne or a glass of tea between the sessions or at the end of their labor's day. And I do hope that within the next coming years, with the ability of all our research institutions and universities to join our forces, because unfortunately we've been seeing that the world remains divided. But I think our mission of us as academics, as researchers, is to serve the world with uniting our efforts and offering new solutions and new ways out of current challenge. And us, I think only together we will be able to offer path towards better life ahead of us, and path towards meeting face to face and enjoying each other's company. So thank you once again. I'm closing this session, but we'll be looking to seeing you at the other sessions and also at the closing of our event. Thank you so much, everybody, again, and see you soon.